joined with Jimena Guzman, Leslie Monzo, and Harneet Kaur. Our podcast is analyzing psychological horror movies Get Out and Split. Our first segment is explaining the plots of both Get Out and Split.
So starting off with Get Out, it starts off with the two characters, Chris and Rose, and they're getting ready to go to meet Rose's parents for the first time. So Chris is kind of nervous. You know, you have the first, meeting the parents jitters, but then also he's nervous because he's black and Rose's parents is all white. So he's kind of nervous that they're going to judge him, and he's asking her, did you tell them? And she's like, don't even worry about that. They're cool. They're not racist. They would have voted for Obama a third time if they could have.
I thought that was funny.
Yeah. Right. So she's trying to really paint them as woke and this and that. So on their way to her parents' house, they hit a deer, which I think is a pretty bad omen. Something bad is gonna happen. And so it's creepy because Chris gets out of the car and he's walking up to the deer and he's staring at it, and you're just kind of staring at a dead deer. And later we find out it's kind of a nod to his trauma in the past with his mom. But once they get there, it starts, the creepy vibes start even more. But a fun fact about the movie is that so according to this article by Eric Bohan Yap and Marvin Zhu, in a 2018 article by the Pally Voice, they had a pretty small budget of $4.5 million, and the box office sales were $225 million, which is a great difference. And I think that it's telling of the director that he did a really good job on this.
That's good. No, that was really good.
I feel like it's a hard topic, of racism and stuff to capture, and he did a good job. And
I know, I feel like this movie was really popular.
Yeah, it's an iconic movie.
Yeah, I thought that was beautiful.
Yeah.
But racism and stuff.
Yeah.
And then it all gets kind of weird, in particular in that one scene where it's the grandfather's garden party. He invites all his friends, all these rich old white people, and it's oh, okay. So then Chris is out looking, meeting everyone, and then he sees a black man and he goes up to him. His name was Andre, and he noticed that he was acting all weird, he was acting all brainwashed. He was with a older lady supposedly. So they were in a relationship. So it was all kind of weird. So he decided to take a picture of him with flash to send to his friend because he looked familiar. And when he took the picture, that he would start screaming oh, get out, get out. And this really impacted him. He was oh, it wasn't my fault, but
yeah, it's kind of weird. You just took a picture and someone's going crazy at you.
And then Rose and him go out to talk to Woods after this. They're talking about this. She's oh, I know something weird, this was not right, we have to go, we can't be here no more. So as they're packing, Chris finds a box with pictures, and this is Rose and all her past relationships, and they're all black men. And he also sees Walter and Georgina there, who are the servants. So this was pretty creepy. He was creeped out. He was nah, we gotta go. So according to an article by Kale Long, published by the Credits in 2017, in this scene when Rose was trying to find the keys, and Chris was find the keys. Yeah. The lighting switched. It was all from warm lighting, happy family, and it switched, and it was all creepy, And the father's glasses, he was looking at the fireplace, seeing all this pan out, all this oh, get the keys, you see a reflection of the fireplace, and it goes on the floor. And to symbolize oh, the sunken place, or how something bad's coming,
Yeah, the dad was oh, you're not gonna leave today. And then Rose was I'm trying to find the keys, but I can't find it. And then later she's she's oh no, I never liked you. I just used you as a victim. I thought that was insane.
The scene was so creepy. I just, oh my gosh.
She was acting the whole time. And she's I can't find them. Oh, I have them right here. I'm not gonna give them to you.
Yeah. Biggest plot twist ever. I literally obviously you can like low key kind of anticipate it, but I was still shocked.
Yeah,
I was still shocked.
Because you're trying to get out of there, and then everyone's coming, like the brother, the mom, the dad is sitting there, she's sitting there, and he's like getting creeped out, and everyone's like, no, you're not leaving, and your
so
one way
creepy.
out is your girlfriend, who you think is you know good and gonna take care of you, and she's like, nope.
Yeah, and they were like, oh, you know what, just, hey, why don't you drag his body out of the room and take him upstairs?
Oh, yeah,
I thought that was weird.
Oh my god.
Yeah, with the teacup and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Talking about the teacup, later on in the movie, obviously when Chris wakes up inside their basement all tied up to that chair and everything, he realizes, well, first they make him watch that weird video talking about like the procedure and like explaining like what they do to him and how it works and all that. And then Chris realizes that Rose's mom earlier in the movie used the teacup, and it was a spoon, right?
Yeah.
The spoon to hypnotize him. And he realizes that while he's in the chair, that if he blocks the sound that the teacup makes, that maybe there's a chance that he won't become hypnotized.
Yeah.
So he uses cotton from off of the chair and puts it inside his ears to block the sound, obviously, and it ends up working, which is good. But I just thought the fact that he used cotton to save his life, basically, is just a really big symbol.
Yeah, I hadn't even picked up on that, but it is like a cool like note put in there, like an what is it, an Easter egg? Yeah,
basically, because it's obviously this movie deals with a lot of topics about racism and microaggressions and everything like that. So I think the director is using the symbol of cotton, which is something that used to severely like hurt African Americans during slavery and everything like that, to then save Chris's life is just a really big that's a big symbol.
Yeah, it's really cool of them to put that in.
Yeah, so I found an article by Brie Tautica, and I think it was published in 2026. But according to that article, Jordan Peele said that the director, he said that he considers the movie as a social thriller, which is basically like a genre that focuses on social, like societal themes, while adding thrilling like horror elements to it. I thought that was like a really interesting description of the movie.
No, I would agree that it focuses on a lot of like social aspects.
Yeah, it's definitely thrilling.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to the plot of Split. It starts off with 3 girls in a car, Casey, Marcia, and Clara. And so Clara's dad is putting in her birthday party gifts into the trunk, and Casey's in the passenger seat. And she notices that, first of all, she notices in the driver's mirror or whatever outside that, you know, some gifts and some food have fallen, and she's like, something is up, something is weird. So next thing you know, this guy is sitting in the car, and it's not Claire's dad. And so everyone's like, sir, you've got the wrong car, you gotta go. And
oh my gosh.
Then he sprays them with something, and they fall unconscious. And later we learn that this was one of Kevin's personalities, Dennis.
Yeah.
And so now the girls are in this room together, and it's kind of like underground, but it's like fixed up in a way. And so Dennis comes in the door, and he takes Marcia out, and while they're struggling to get out and stuff, Casey tells Marcia, like, pee on yourself, because she noticed that this Dennis guy is like super OCD, because he has like a bunch of cleaning supplies, and just like the way that he acts, you can tell that, you know, he has OCD. And so she knew to tell her to pee on herself, and that would let him, you know, put her back in the room and let her go. And so she comes in, and you can see that she had peed herself, and she kind of is telling them, like, he was asking me to dance for him, which is so creepy. And then
that's really
never
creepy.
know.
It's really weird.
You never know what else could have happened if Casey wasn't like alert and observant, which is, you know, just kind of telling, because you're kind of like, in that moment, anybody would just be freaking out.
Yeah.
But she's like picking up on every little thing, trying to get out.
Exactly.
yeah, it's kind of like telling of her what she's gone through and her traumas and stuff as a kid.
Yeah, Casey even like tells the girls she was like, okay guys, I know you're scared right now, but you have to be like stay calm because that will increase our chances of survival and we can escape. But they didn't really listen. Claire was just like, oh, I'm gonna go up the vent, bye guys, and
that did not
get
work
caught.
out.
That did not work, and I was like, girl, what are you doing?
It didn't work.
Yeah, she got caught, and then like the other girl got caught too, so they all got separated. So now it was just like everybody in their own room, and Casey was like trying to like using like manipulation tactics, trying to like get to know his personalities so that she could escape. You know, he was trying to be like, he was talking about a window.
Yeah,
and like
Hedwig.
And then like he went and took her to her room, to his room, and then like she was like, where's the window? And the window was literal drawn window, like on paper.
I thought that was funny.
I laughed a little.
Yeah, it's funny, but I'm also like, I would have freaked out too. Because like it's your one. She was really thinking like, oh, there's a real window. I can, tell him to. She was manipulating him because this Hedwig personality is like a little boy.
Yeah.
So he was like, oh, do you want to come to my room and watch me dance and da-da-da-da. And she was like, yeah. And that was her only chance to possibly get out, and it was gone.
Yeah. That sucked.
Yeah. So I did find an article from Screen Rant that was like published in 2018. So apparently the character Kevin, he was inspired by a real person named Billy Milligan, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that. He had the same thing as Kevin. Like he had 24 personalities, and he was also arrested of a crime. And I thought that was really interesting how this movie was based on a real person.
Yeah, I had no idea about that. I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know about that. Which both of them, or he, the director, took inspiration from a real person.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, so they tried to escape, and then Casey is trying to escape, right? And she's opening the door. She manages to get a gun, which she knows how to use because she went hunting with her dad when she was younger.
Yeah.
And she manages to get a gun, and so she's running through the underground tunnels, and she opens the door, and she finds Clara first, and she thinks that she's alive, right? But then she's not.
Yeah.
And then now it's like the beast form of his personality, and so you can hear like chewing noises. So he's like eating one of the girls. And this was kind of like referenced in the beginning when they were first captured, because the two personalities he was talking to himself, but it sounded like he was talking to two people, and so they were listening to him, and they heard something about like, oh, the food is waiting or something.
Oh yeah.
And Marsha was like, do you think he's gonna feed us to his dog? And it's like, no, girl, you're the food. He's gonna eat you. Yeah. And then later on, towards the end of the movie, that's when so Casey pretty much gets saved because the beast is like trying to get her, right?
Yeah.
And he sees all her like self-harm scars all over her, and to him this means that she's pure, that she's experienced trauma and she's deserving to live. So she ends up surviving and being the only one to survive, and then later like this security guy comes in, gets her out and gets her to the police and stuff. But I was thinking like afterwards how she was probably thinking to herself like, do I feel grateful that I experienced this trauma and it saved my life, but then at the same time, how am I grateful for something that is traumatic and I survived,
I mean, obviously she shouldn't be in this situation in the first place, so it's like I wouldn't be grateful. I'd be like, why'd this even happen? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
One important character in this movie that I want to talk about is Kevin's therapist, Dr. Fletcher. I feel like she plays such a big role especially with Kevin and like his emotions and everything like that. And talking about DID, because you guys remember that one scene where she's talking to like her colleague, I think it is, and then he's like basically saying that DID is like just like belittling it and saying that's not real per se, and then obviously Dr. Fletcher like stands up for DID and like talks about like its importance and stuff like that. So I thought that was cool. And then a not cool, but like important, thrilling scene I would say during the movie is when Dr. Fletcher notices that Kevin's behavior is becoming more erratic and like he's being kind of weird, especially with like his emails and stuff. So she goes over there to check on him in person, and then while she's there, she asks to go to the bathroom, and she finds one of the girls like in a closet, right? It was a closet. I was like, what the heck is going on?
Really unsettling.
Yeah, and then she tries to convince Kevin to let the girls go. And everything like that, and then I think Kevin like knocks her out, basically, and then when she regains consciousness for like a little bit, I think she writes down Kevin's like full name and stuff like that, so the girls can use it to their advantage later on, which I thought was really nice.
His full name was supposed to like wake him up and like summon his actual personality.
And I thought it was crazy how like you just came up and then you just choked her, kind of. I thought that was really unsettling because like you can also hear the bones cracking. I was like, ew.
That part was not that stuff was gross.
It was disgusting.
It was gruesome in a way.
I know. I feel like this movie has a lot of like, I would say like gore almost.
Yeah. I think so too. All right. So does anyone else have anything to add to the plot?
I think we explained them.
All right, cool.
And then our next segment. Now that we understand the plots of Get Out and Split, our next segment that we're going to talk about is we're talking about the cultural impact and the psychological themes in both of the movies.
So in Get Out, we're seeing the horrors and that Black people experience day to day, the oppression, the microaggressions, the abuse, and it's kind of like an economic gain of their bodies. In an article written by Renee Nicole Allen in 2023 of the William and Mary Law School, they talk about how the sunken place highlights the oppression of marginalized people, and it recognizes the metaphor of the feelings of helplessness that Black people experience in a society built on systemic racism, because it's like a metaphor of how the sunken place, you're kind of like floating in space, you're seeing everything through your eyes, but you don't have control what you say, what you do of your body. So that's like a strong metaphor of the racism that Black people experience, that they don't have control over themselves, and they're just seen as an object. So we see a lot of also in the dinner or in the lunch party. We see how everyone is just treating Chris as an object also.
I was about to say that I feel like this movie really focuses on like the commodification of Black bodies, and like really just shows that the history basically is showing us that we don't respect Black people as people, that we view them as objects. And like I feel like the silent auction really demonstrated that, basically saying that like this person isn't actually a person, they're an object to me, and I'm gonna buy them and I can do whatever I want with the body because I bought them.
I thought that was really disgusting. I didn't like that.
It was so like unsettling, and it almost made me like uncomfortable, but I feel like that's the point of the movie, is to make you uncomfortable.
Which I think
because
they did a good job on.
Obviously no one likes to talk about these kinds of topics, but I feel like it's important that we do talk about them. Because history happens for a reason. Obviously we don't want history to repeat itself, so I feel like bringing light to situations like this and talking about them even though you're uncomfortable is how you move past things.
Exactly. So I also noticed a lot of racial undertones throughout the movie. Like when during the scene where when they hit the deer. The police asked Chris to check the ID thing.
Yeah.
Instead of Rose, even though Rose was the one driving, which I thought it was crazy. And even that it was just to show that he was being racist. And then the second one is like when Rose and Chris when they came to visit the family, the dad, Dean, he was like, he kept using the words like my man, thing, and I thought that was also very weird.
Yeah.
And then the third one, during the garden party scene, all the white people there, they just kept talking about his like physical and genetic features.
Yeah.
Like, back then fair skin used to be favored, but I guess black is in fashion now, which also made me really uncomfortable.
That's like,
I didn't like hearing
that's a whack thing to say. Like, that's like, oh my god.
It's not a trend.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I thought that was weird that they say all that instead of actually getting to know him. Which I didn't like that.
Which, I mean, that just proves what I was just like, what we were just talking about is like, they don't see him as a person.
Yeah.
He's quite literally just an object that they're willing to buy, which is like, that's crazy.
Yeah, they're just like willing to buy him to like get the brain transplant and put it into a white person so that he could be like as functional as him.
Yeah. That's where he meets the guy that we see later when he's strapped to the chair in the TV. That's where he meets. He recognizes him. Chris recognizes the guy as like some famous person, and he is blind. The white guy, and later he says in the TV when he's talking to him through the screen, and he's like, I want your eyes, because he was blind.
Yeah.
Right? So that was really creepy.
I know, that part creeped me out so bad.
I thought it was unsettling.
Yeah.
As far as Split, we know that it highlights DID, dissociative identity disorder, because Kevin has multiple personalities, and one of them is the Beast, and that's like a supernatural being.
Yeah.
Throughout the movie, it feels like a thriller because you literally don't know who's coming in through the door. Because even though it's the same person, she has to treat, because Casey's kind of doing most of the talking.
Yeah.
She has to treat every single person differently and like tiptoe around it, everything.
That has to be so draining, I feel like.
Yeah, because, with one of the most like violent characters, she has to keep her distance, not be at the front lines and trying to get out and stuff and be manipulating, whereas with Hedwig she can do that because he's literally like 8 years old.
So I did find an article by Healthline in 2017. So apparently Split was criticized for its like horrible portrayal of DID and the stigmatization of it. It's because this movie like mixes violence with DID, and people are saying like, oh my gosh, they're painting him as a violent, aggressive predator. I don't like that. And then the director, I think his name is M. Night Shyamalan, he tried to say like, oh no guys, trust me, I did really heavy research before filming this movie, but people are like, nope, I still don't like that.
Yeah. I mean, I can see their frustration. You know what I mean? I mean, obviously this isn't like the most popular like psychological
thriller
thing. Yeah. But I feel like obviously when you make a movie about psychology or like mental illness or anything like that, there are always going to be people that are mad either way. So I feel like I understand people's frustrations about DID not being portrayed a certain way, even if it's not 100% accurate. You have to keep in mind like this person is trying to make a movie and trying to make it thrilling for people to enjoy watching. So I mean, you have to take and give. There
has to be a Hollywood aspect of like supernatural.
I know, especially towards the end part. I was like, I feel like we just did a 180. Like
because at first it was like, okay, mental illness, like psychological. And now it's like
boom, like
gory.
There's this beast thing, and I'm like, it was like
climbing on the walls.
But I mean, it was entertaining. I would say. I think the director and the writer. I mean, I think they did a good job of keeping me engaged with the movie.
Exactly.
So
it's good as like a horror movie, but not a good movie for like spreading awareness about DID. That was a very bad portrayal, but overall, it's a good horror movie.
I would say the same.
I would say that another like psychological theme, I guess I would say, is like control versus vulnerability. Like obviously, like throughout the entire movie, the whole plot, I guess I would say, is Kevin's lack of control, and then him being vulnerable, and obviously the girls being vulnerable and everything like that. So I would say that just the lack of control is just a very big thing that has to do with this movie, because I mean, obviously if he had control,
he wouldn't
kidnap girls.
Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah, but I feel like Casey kind of had control kind of too, because like she knew him, like she knew what type of like thing he would do next, not necessarily, but like he knew the personality, so she knew like that, like how to escape, how to go against him, like when she was trying to escape with the gun and stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna say how Casey also has her, in both of these movies there's a lot of trauma, but Casey has her trauma and kind of unpacking it through the movie, resurfacing through nightmares or like things that remind her of things when she was younger and going hunting with her dad and her uncle, and then she was like a little girl and her uncle's like, oh hey, come over here, like let's play a game, and she turns the corner and he's like behind this rock undressed, and he's telling her to get undressed so they can play wolves, and wolves don't wear clothes, so you have to be naked. And you can see her like start to undress, and so I think that's that, and then also the fact that then her dad dies, and so now her uncle has custody of her, and so I think that's probably why she has scars all over her. And then that links back to like that's what ends up saving her.
Obviously it describes like her personality, she's very observant because of the things that have happened to her, which ultimately, like you said, ends up saving her life. So and then finally, our last segment is comparing and contrasting the two movies.
So we all know that these movies shed light on very important topics like racism and DID. I think they both mix like horror aspects to them, but I think that Split is more gory. I guess they're both a little bit gory, but Split is almost like insinuated. Like, we don't really see her or him eating the girls. But we hear it. And
I feel like that's enough.
Yeah, that's enough.
I don't need to see
That's
it.
enough, because then you're like, what is that noise? Oh my god, no!
I feel like throwing up.
It was
really
gross. It was gross. And then especially I feel like towards the end, it like gets more gory and everything, like with like the beast and everything like that. Like I feel like especially more thrilling. Obviously, like I feel like with both of these movies, as the movie progresses, obviously it gets more thrilling and more like psychological, and like you get that feeling like in your chest, like oh my god, what's gonna happen next. But I feel like with Split, it shows more like, I don't know, I guess I would say like disturbing images almost, because it shows you like everything that's going on.
I was gonna say I thought they both were in common in the fact that they had like similar but different ways of being trapped in your own head. Because Get Out, he's in the sunken place, he has no control of his mind or of his body and what he's saying. And then Split, he has these personalities taking over his brain, and then that split second when he does gain consciousness, he's literally telling Casey like, kill me, because he's so horrified of what he has done. He didn't even know that he did all this, kidnapped girls and killed people and this and that. So he's, he just wants it to all end. So it's like similar but different. And in an article I saw by the Healthline editorial team in 2017 by Health News, they were talking about how DID stems from traumatic experiences, and it can cause people to create personalities to escape from reality, and they may experience out-of-body experiences and voices controlling them. So I think that's Relevant to Split and Kevin, what he experienced in his childhood, he said in one of his therapy sessions how he experienced abuse from his mom.
Yeah.
And the one way he could escape it or get some respite is if the house was spotless and clean.
Yeah.
So now his brain created this personality that literally has OCD, and that's like him trying to protect himself. And then also, like you had mentioned, the girls that had assaulted him, and now he's preying on those girls. So it was all connected in that way.
Yeah.
So I noticed that what these two movies have in common is that they show like a moderate amount of gore.
Yeah.
And like I think both of these movies did a really great job of like disturbing the audience, like without seeing the gore outright. Like you could just tell it was already disturbing by the sounds. Although actually in Get Out there was a surgery scene, and the Dean, Rose's dad, he cuts off like the top part of the brain, and he threw it in the trash, and I thought that was really weird, even though it showed up for like a split second.
That split second was enough for me.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it was enough.
Also, the Beast also had like blood on his like mouth, which I also think was very, very disturbing. Like you can already tell he ate the girls. So I also think they did a really good job of like disturbing the audience without showing outright gore. I thought that was really
one thing I noticed was that like in both of the movies, like the mom plays like a big part in like their traumas. Since you know how you said before, like Kevin's mom was like getting all mad at him, and that's how he developed OCD. And like Chris, where his mom's passing, like it really affected them both, and like kind of like made them like in a way where like they had to like see things differently, and like it played a big role in how they survived what was happening, and like how they got through, like how Kevin got through those personalities, and how Chris, like he was like, nah, like I gotta get out, you know.
Yeah. I feel like the two movies, we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, but I feel like the two movies are very different from each other based on the themes that they're focusing on. I feel like with Get Out, it's more like, I don't remember which one you said, but like societal things. Like societal norms, like obviously racism and microaggressions, while Split is definitely more like psychology focused, obviously with him having DID, and basically the whole movie being focused on his mental disorder and everything that it causes him to do. I just feel like the two movies are very different from each other on what they're trying to achieve.
I agree.
Does anyone have anything else?
I guess I could just talk about Kevin's philosophy. So he represents like the brokenness concept, which is like this twisted philosophy. Like he has that like, people who live the most perfect lives, no trauma, no trouble, they're impure, and those that are actually like endured horrible like abuse, trauma, from anyone, like they're like clean, pure, like
that was creepy.
I thought it was like very interesting how he thought of this like twisted philosophy.
But I mean, ultimately, that's the whole reason why Casey, right? I'm like trying to remember her name. That's like the whole reason Casey survived. So I mean, obviously that's not good, and like none of this should have happened to her in the first place. But at least she lived.
That was a good thing.
More trauma to unpack.
I know. Now she's gonna be even more traumatized.
But she was really smart in like escaping though. Like she stayed vigilant. She stayed calm. Didn't panic much. She did panic a little, but like she wasn't like too much panicking.
She was locked in the whole movie.
Instead of like trying to kill like the killer, she's just like, let me just like manipulate and maybe that'll get me.
I think we covered everything, right?
I think that's all I have.
Okay. We hope you enjoyed our podcast on analyzing psychological horror movies. I'm your moderator, Kylie Dickinson, here with Jimena Guzman, Leslie Manzo, and Harneet Kaur. Thank you for watching.
The EOPS program helps academically and economically disadvantaged students. We provide book vouchers and grants, counseling, special transfer and career services. EOPS has been a program in the California Community College system for 50 years as of 2019. Solano Community College is one of the most diverse community colleges in the nation. So if you're interested in the EOPS program, please stop by and fill out an application.
The EOPS, they help with counseling, like setting your classes and stuff up, registration, a couple of grants, books, even college tours and field trips.
It gave me a plan and let me know what I need to do to graduate as soon as possible. Also the books, I can't really afford the books. You know, you take a lot of classes and the books definitely helped me out. They give you a voucher, you can basically get books worth for $400 and that's a lot of money to be able to spend just on books.
They help me financially. They have a lending library that lends us books and laptops and calculators as well.
We invite you to apply to our program. We provide the guidance and the academic supplies for you to be successful. When the time is ready for your graduation, we will be providing supplies for that. We know that higher education can change lives.